We're going to continue to talk about advanced mining methods, and today we're going to talk about how we can use mapped mining to reach over 650 tons of Painite per hour. We've all tried it. You're sitting down for a nice, relaxing mining trip, you undock, you get to the build, and you forgot your limpets. Presenting the Remember Your Limpets mug from the Down to Earth store. With this mug, you'll have a nice bright sign right in your face, reminding you to restock your limpets. Check out this and many other products at d2astore.com. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to this second part of my two-part video on how we can use map mining and high resource extraction sites to reach a staggering 650 tons of Painite per hour. In the last video we focused on mining in hash-rest sites. I'm going to link that in one for icon. If you haven't watched that already, I recommend you do that. And in this video I'm going to focus on map mining. I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about how to run a map and things you need to be aware of and things you need to be careful with. So first, I just want to tell you there is a lot of different mining maps out there by different creators. And depending on how they've created that specific map, some of these things I'm going to tell you today is going to vary. The ones I'll be using are the ones that have been uploaded here to the Commander's Toolbox. And more specifically, I will be using this one here in HIP 21991. There are more mining maps here and I'm hoping to add more later. And I need to say a huge thank you to Commander Charlie, who has been a tremendous help getting these maps up. He's the creator of these maps. He got some help from the Elite Dangerous Australian and New Zealand community. So huge shout out to you guys. Thanks a lot. And again, if you have some maps, you want to have them on the Commander's Toolbox, then do get in touch with me. The whole idea with the mining map is that asteroids are the same. And regardless of whether you log in or log out, the asteroids remain the same. So if you run a route once and you map where all the good asteroids are, you can go back to the start 2 hours later and you can do the same route again and again and again. And they should reset every 2 hours. The first thing, at least for the maps I have here, there are drop-in pictures where we can see exactly where we're going to be dropping in. Here you could have some more detailed maps if it's more advanced where you need to drop in. But in this case, we're just dropping in the high resource extraction site that's located right at the center of a Painite hotspot. And as you can see, I have this exact hotspot right here in front of me. So I'm just going to go and drop in, and then we're going to talk about alignment. Now, if we jump over here again, we can see we also have alignment pictures. This tells us the start location and where we need to go. This varies a lot. On some maps, you need to be like 2 kilometers away from that could be a resource extraction site or a hotspot center, and then have it aligned with a planet or something. So that makes it a little bit easier. This one is a more difficult one because you can see here on the picture that we need to be 20 kilometers away from the resource extraction site, exactly aligned with the planetary body around it. Now, I have some ships flying around in the background, but we can't actually see the target marker, but we need to align this one up with the planet behind it. And I'm going to show you how you can do that real quickly. So what I like to do when I come in is first to fly down to the extraction site itself. And as I'm getting relatively close, I don't have to go exactly to the point. We're going more for speed than necessarily accuracy. We're going to be accurate later. I'm going to turn away from the planet. I should have a good idea where the planet is. And as I'm turning away, I'm going to go and I'm going to target the planet. Then I'm going to use my little navigation compass down here to change my heading until that planet is right behind me. So that I have that hollow dot right at the center of my crosshairs. And I'm going to keep flying in that direction. And from this point on, I'm not going to change my heading. I'm going to go back and I'm going to target the resource extraction site. You see, it's not quite centered. So now I'm going to use my my maneuvering thrusters, my up and down, left and right thrusters, to try and keep that centered. So now I've reached approximately 20 kilometers, like 500 meters too far out, but that's okay. And I've also turned on night vision, just because this map was made with night vision, so to make it as easy as possible for myself, I'm going to have that turned on as well. The next I can do is I can try to align these two up. So right now I have the resource extraction source site targeted. And then we can kind of get a feeling. It's actually a pretty good alignment so far. So we can go ahead and look at the picture. We can see we have like a big round rock here in front of us. Then we have like 3 rocks overlapping with like an elongated one in front. So the big round one could be the one we see right here in front of us. We can also see the icon here is right above it. We can kind of look at the shape of that. It's right above it, pointing down on that. So let's try to put ourselves in a position like that. Now it doesn't really look right, and that's probably because that I'm upside down compared to the map. So if I flip my ship around and then do the same alignment again, we should begin to see this look quite familiar to what we saw in the original picture. You can see now we have those 3 big rocks in front of us, and we have that elongated rock now kind of hidden behind the text here. If I turn a bit, it's easier to see. But this, we can also see that very prominent rock out there to the right, smaller one, which we can also see here in the picture. So now we know we are aligned correctly. From this point on, we're going to define up and down, and we're going to keep that orientation throughout the whole map. And it's very important you keep track of it. So a good thing could be, for instance, we can see the local star. So I'm going to keep a mental note that the local star is below me, and it is on the left side of the planet, because then I can always use that star as reference to which side it's up. So the star is in this case below me, but find something, can be a nebula, anything really, that you can use to identify where you are. This whole alignment process might seem convoluted and seem like it takes a lot of time, but trust me, once you get good at this, you're gonna come down, swoop down to the center and just begin boosting outwards towards those 20 kilometers. And from drop-in until you are ready in this position, aligned and good to go, shouldn't take more than 2 to 3 minutes. That's the amount of time I usually use on my alignments, 2 to 3 minutes, nothing more than that. So now that we are aligned, we can go ahead and we can start the actual map. On the Commander's Toolbox, I just have the maps, or all the pictures up here. And what we're going to do is, we can see we're going to take the first picture here, zoom in for a little bit for the video. We can see the same rocks. That's the big one we had in the front. That's the 3 ones that we saw before, and the other one we also used for alignment. And we can see the first one, the first rock we're going to be mining is marked out here with a limpet. So we're gonna have to go to that, go down to a big one, then there's like an elongated one, and then it's like in a cluster of 3, and then it's the lower one in this like triangular shape thing here. And we can see here this should be 48.65% Painite. So going back in here, we remember we saw that rock, then we saw these like 3 rocks right here in front of me. That's not quite the same, probably because my position is like 300 meters off. So if I position myself exactly right, it'll probably look better. So something like that, or it's more like in the picture. So it's that one right there in front of me. Okay, let's fire off a prospector and let's see if we got the right rock. And indeed we did. 48.65% Painite. Let's go mining. First asteroid has just completed. My limpets are still doing their collection, but we can begin to prepare for the next rock. So we're gonna jump back to our map, whatever site you're using for your maps, move on to the next picture. Now, this position you're in is usually, most maps are made that you position yourself underneath the rock you just mined. And we're going to use the position of the resource extraction site as a reference point. Also, make sure you keep that targeted, because you will then have the option to use the compass down here to see where that dot should probably be. Those are your 2 best options for alignment. My collectors are now done. I'm going to move down below the rock like so. And then it was kind of like a rock hidden behind another one. So it's that one. I've been doing this map quite a few times, so I'm getting a little familiar with the rocks. And this helps tremendously to have 2 screens, so we have the map on one, so we can like sit and quick reference between the 2 pictures. It makes it a lot easier to locate. But in this case, I'm just going to fire a prospector towards that rock. I'm going to confirm that I got the 50.3% that was also shown in the map. When you begin to use mining maps, you will eventually, at some point, you will lose the trail. And you're going to think you got the right rock, you're going to begin flying towards it, and then all of a sudden it wasn't the one you thought it was, and you lost the trail. And then you need to find your way back, and that can be quite difficult. So it's a good idea, if you can, to keep the limpet active on the rock behind you, because you can then use that to figure out what was the rock you just mined. Otherwise you have to try and backtrack and find the rock you just mined, which can be quite difficult in order to come back on the track. But in some cases, you might actually be better off if you completely lose the track to just begin prospecting normally as you would. Just forget about the map, accept that that was how far you got with the map that round, come back 2 hours later and restart. Now, this particular rock we're coming up to has actually fooled me quite a few times. This is a surprisingly difficult rock to use doing a map, and I'll show you why. Because it's pretty big and it's rotating relatively quickly. What I will do to avoid losing my limpets is, of course, there we go, to move over here to the side and kind of mine at the axis of rotation. Right now I have no reference of my surroundings, and it's very easy to begin to kind of want to follow the rock as it rotates, which I am right now. I'm spinning my ship, but I can't see it because I can't see my surroundings. So when you are mining these larger rocks, I'm just gonna rotate my ship back so I actually can't see anything right now. Where's the plane? See, there's the plane. Already lost my orientation here. So because when you are mining these larger rocks, be very careful with your rotation. Don't accidentally rotate your ship around, because all of a sudden you're upside down, and that's how you lose the trail of your map, because then you, instead of moving below it, you're moving on top of it, and everything is the wrong way up, and it's just difficult. Be very careful when you have these rocks that take up your full view, not to accidentally roll your ship. The next one here is a little bit more difficult, so I just want to do that as well, because now I can't actually see the resource extraction site in the frame because it's so far off to the side. So I'm going to use the little compass here that we can see down here. And we can see that it's a hollow dot, and it's all the way out at the edge, and it's right at the center. So going back in game, I still keep the resource extraction site targeted. I'm going to rotate my ship so that that dot goes hollow like so. There I'm gonna stop, and after I position myself right underneath the rock, as I should, which I of course forgot here, you can see I now have something that's very similar. I have these two big rocks up here, I have this small one down here, so I have big rock, I have small rock, and then right in front of me I have the rock I need to mine. So use that compass. The compass is your friend in this situation here, when you can't actually see the resource extraction site in the screen itself. Okay, so we have an interesting situation coming up here. I'm moving between rocks, but I actually have pirates scanning my ship and now attacking my ship. I really recommend that in this situation that there's a few things you need to fit. Point defense, we talked about in the last video as well. A good shield, because in this situation, I don't want to lose the map. I don't want to lose the trail and begin to deal with the pirates. So that's why I recommend having a larger than you would expect hit point pool for your shields. I just put 4 pips to shields. I keep flying. Okay, so I did manage to find the right rock here, 44.9%. Now that I have the rock, now I know I'm safe. I have the rock and I know how to deal with it. Now, an easy way to deal with this is just a wing of sidewinders. So it's not a huge deal. What I would normally do is I would send out my crew with Howard O'Connor in the fighters that I have fitted on board, which I recommend. Again, I have a dedicated build guide that's coming out for an alternate version of the Gold Digger, which is what I'm using here, designed for this kind of thing. But, of course, as you can see here, he set us inactive. I remembered my limpets, but I forgot my Howard. So, what I can do now is I can do 2 things. I can fight them myself. I have offensive weapons on this ship. I have multi-cannons and beam lasers. But I need to be very careful with my orientation so I don't lose that. Alternatively, which I probably will do now, is I'll just deploy myself out to the fighter and then just make sure my ship holds position where it is. Another thing you can of course do, depending on what kind of resource site you're in, you can't just wait for the police to show up, as you can see I've ended up doing here because there were multiple wings coming in. The main thing about pirates that you should be worrying about is to try to avoid it taking too much time away from you running the map. And that's why I recommend using the fighter. That's why I recommend waiting for the police to show up and let them deal with it, because all the time you're spending out in your fighter or flying around trying to kill a ship, that's time that you're not mining, and that means you're not making any money, and that is why we're here after all. Now the last piece of advice I want to give you is don't get disheartened if you don't see amazing results the first time you're running a map. Even though I have been doing map mining for quite a while, I've been running many different maps, and I have spent countless hours in rings, both doing laser mining, core mining, subsurface mining. First time I ran this map, it took me, I think, 1 hour and 15 minutes to complete. I think that's the first time I lost the track, and I spent like half an hour getting back on the track. But the first time I completed the map, where I made all the way to the end, I think it took me like 1 hour and 15 minutes. Now that I've been practicing the map, and I kind of know where the pitfalls are, where it's easy to make mistakes, I can complete a map and fill the cargo hold with 512 tons of cargo, plus the 10 in my refinery, in just over 45 minutes. With a little bit of practice, I'm pretty sure I can get that time down below 45 minutes. So even though Painite is pretty low value at the moment, if you can mine over 600 tons per hour, it's still going to add up, it's still going to be quite valuable. Now with this eagle behind me just suiciding Hatchbreak Olympus after Hatchbreak Olympus on my point defense, I'm going to call this video for today. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go down and hit the like button, and again, while you're down there, do remember to subscribe to the channel. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.